Hello, this is EC3 of TNA Wrestling, and you are so very fortunate because you are watching Beyond the Ring with Big T.
This is the bad boy Joey Janela, and you're watching Beyond the Ring with Big T.
Hello everybody, how you doing out there tonight? Welcome to the show, and boy do we got a special one here for you. Welcome to episode number 400 of the Beyond the Ring with Big T Wrestling podcast here for Thursday, April 7th, 2022. Can you believe it? It's not only episode 400, but this is also an 8-year anniversary celebration podcast, and I am very honored and privileged to have two very special guests with me right here tonight. And I'd like to introduce my first guest, coming all the way to us, finally making his return to the show. You may know him from Wrestling Road Stories, my very good friend and legendary professional wrestling photographer, Mr. Bill Otten. Bill, how are you doing today, my friend? I'm so happy to have you back.
Yeah, I can see your smile from ear to ear from here. We're not even seeing you.
I'm happy. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I disappeared for a while. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what? Now we'll get back on the roll and we'll get this going again. But I really appreciate you being here for this special 400th episode. And I want to say right here, we also have another guest, Bill. It's not just you and me, because we have our very special guest who's joined us on Wrestling Road Stories before. We have a wonderful person here, all calling us all the way from Tokyo, Japan. We have Mr. Fumi Saito here with us tonight. Fumi, how you doing, my friend?
Hello from Tokyo.
It's a pleasure to have you back.
All right. Yep.
And
it's like a good morning Vietnam or something.
I appreciate both of you coming back on here and being a part of this very special episode. I mean, 400 for the podcast and 8-year anniversary of the podcast as well. It's a pleasure. I'm very honored to have both of you here with me tonight.
All right. It's been a while since I spoke with Bill too, so.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Yeah, we do a little bit of messenger. That's all. Oh, that's about it.
Yeah, I always send him my favorite cat memes.
Oh, those are fun.
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah, it's another thing we have in common.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bill Otten loves cats. I love cats.
I love cats too, so that makes 3.
Okay. And I know Bill talk to his cats all day long.
Yeah.
But I do that too, so.
Well, gentlemen, first off here, I'm going to start with Fumi, and then Bill, you can elaborate on this. I'll have Fumi start us off. I'd like to talk about both of your careers. You know, Fumi and you, Bill, both of you have been out, you know, on the road and have done some incredible things in the professional wrestling business. And I would like for you to share some of that with all the viewers today. And can we talk about the very beginning, how it all started with both of you being introduced, and you know what both of you did in the early days?
Well, but it might take up all the time.
Oh, okay. Can
Yeah, right, Bill? Bill and I both started the same magazine, the same 1981.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was 41 years ago. I was still in college.
That was 7 years before I was born.
See? That's I didn't want to. Yeah, but Bill and I didn't meet up physically, you know, meet up in person until probably like 83, 84.
Okay.
Right, Bill?
Yeah, I think that's when it was.
But I don't remember the day, you know. It might be, National Wrestling Alliance, NWA Florida, or NWA Crockett, some big show, or, yeah, it's hard to remember. Or something to do with Keiji Muto.
Yeah, Muda maybe. I'm not sure.
See, like, that's how far back that we don't remember the day we met.
Yeah. Well,
I don't remember how I actually started talking to him either. But I was already on the magazine through another editor at the time.
And also through Taiga Hattori too, right?
Yeah, Tiger Hattori, he was a manager in Orlando, actually all over Florida, for a couple of Japanese wrestlers named Mr. Saito also.
Mr. Saito and Mr. Sato, yeah.
Sato.
Mr. Sato later on became the Great Kabuki.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Right. And I was doing the ringside photography up in Minnesota with AWA.
Oh, okay, and I was in Florida taking pictures at ringside at Florida Wrestling.
NWA.
They were here, and NWA Florida. Eddie Graham running it, and we shot every week in Orlando Sports Stadium, a really good wrestling, or Dusty Rhodes' favorite wrestling arena. And somehow I was allowed to go to the ringside without even having a magazine, because I showed my pictures around enough that I got in there. And then after a while, I asked if I could show some of my photos, because I had an 8x10s, black and white only, to some of the wrestlers. And then they said, okay, Eddie Graham said, okay, go back there, you know, see who you are. I wanted to actually show it to King Curtis. I had some great shots of King Curtis, and I always liked him. He was one of my favorite wrestlers at the time. And when I was sitting there showing it to King Curtis, yeah, I liked him. And anyway, when they were showing him the photos, Hattori, who was the manager of Sato and Saito, he just happened to be walking by, and he looked over my shoulder. And he kept looking at all the photos, you know, that I was taking, I was showing King Curtis. And he said, you know, he liked the photos, and that he said that they needed a photographer for Japan in Orlando, because they didn't have really anybody, actually nobody in Florida at the time. And if I wanted
and also
to
like a regular supply, you know, photography. Yeah.
Yeah, constantly sending it, just send it every week, send something every week. But there was going to be a title change happening in Orlando the next week, actually. And I can't believe he even told me that. They didn't ever announce things, that was never spoken of to anybody. But he told me that it was going to be a title change. Dusty Rhodes was going to win the title. And if I could take pictures and give him the film, and he would take them to Japan to put in the magazine called, it was a deluxe, I think it was just called Deluxe.
Monthly Pro Wrestling.
Yeah. it was monthly. It was like a book almost. It was kind of looked like a National Geographic of wrestling, like the old National Geographic magazine look. Same size, same thickness, but it was wrestling.
Yeah, it came out every month.
Every month, but it was really good. But I never knew they even had, over here, there was no thought about, all I knew was Florida wrestling at the time. I never even thought that there was such a big audience. I knew there was wrestling in Japan, but I didn't know it was as big as it was. And he said it was huge over there, and they really want to see the American wrestlers because, there was no internet, there was nothing. It was just
the latest photos of NWA World Title matches and all that.
Yep, only in the magazine, and so that's how anybody ever saw what happened in other places was through the magazine.
Yeah, you just talked about the before the internet, but it was like before the VCR even.
Yeah, before cable, TV, everything. We didn't have any of that.
Then we got to fast forward the tape a little bit. That in summer of 1983, the wrestling magazine became weekly in Japan. Weekly instead of monthly. So it started coming out every week. This 150-page magazine come out every week. That they needed more photos, right?
Right, but it was unheard of to do anything but a monthly magazine was unheard of in those days because it takes a while. And it takes a while to get the pictures across the sea, across the ocean and all that. We didn't have wire. We couldn't scan them and, wire them. It was all we send the film. And,
Federal Express.
Federal Express put the film.
The camera and the film wasn't even digital. It was a 36 exposure roll of physical film.
Right, and slides.
Yes, color
Not
slide.
even film, slides, which is really hard to expose. Really, really hard.
Yeah.
And
Now,
so Hattori was doing it as an intermediate, and then he had to go. I guess he went somewhere else, and then he let me take over with sending it to Japan myself.
Sure.
And it wasn't that easy because they didn't. Fumi speaks always good English because he had college education over here, But a lot of the guys over there didn't speak so well in English. They didn't need to. So it was a little difficult in communicating with the people in the office. It was a big office building with a whole bunch of different, not only wrestling magazine, but baseball and every kind of sport you can think of. They were publishing over there. But
Are you with me, Todd?
I'm with you. I just want to make sure I don't interrupt anybody.
Oh, no.
That's all right.
Okay.
But it was it was very difficult to communicate for me, and also to send to, and eventually they had an office in New York. It was and I would go there and talk to the guy, and he would. Sometimes we'd travel together. The guy who was in charge then, but again, not much English. It was very difficult. But then when Fumi came on and I started dealing with him, it was really good because he could speak really good English and he knew everything what was going on over here, and very educated about wrestling and about how to speak English and deal with Americans, much better than the other guys because he was over here in Minneapolis doing stuff.
Yeah, then I graduated from college and went back home and started working for magazine pretty much full time then.
Yeah, and then me and him just started dealing together. I shot the picture. Well, we had a couple of photographers, but
one in St. Louis and one in New York, yeah.
And one in Florida. So we'd all send him the stuff, and there'd be times when he would send a couple of photographers to a big show like WrestleMania or the Rumble or something like that, and then we'd have a couple of guys over there. Yeah, some of the big shows. And we'd send it over to him. he'd get them the films developed, and then he'd use a slide view, like a loop, on
putting together
light.
color page was like my work. It was editor work. It's been that's what I've been doing. Yeah, I was never a photographer.
What?
So.
No. But once it left my hands or some of the other photographers' hands, that was it. We were out of it, and it was all up to Fumi to get that stuff, figure out what was good, and put it together and make a nice article, because it was expensive to publish these color pages, and most magazines in those days were black and white, but we were doing color stuff for the most part, and it was expensive to send all the photographers that we had, the three of us, around to all the different places, and to get us there, get us a hotel, get us airplane, all that they had to provide. It wasn't. We had to make it good. We couldn't screw up.
Yeah. Now the
I was doing you receipts too, though, in Japan.
Yeah, he hated it.
Hated it. Traveling, accommodation, the meal, restaurant receipts, and the whole. You have to fill the form, Japanese company, I could do in the paperwork for you or something.
Yeah, that wasn't the fun part.
More the magazine work.
Right.
What was it?
And then what would see what it was when it was a monthly publication, it was too long for the readers to wait to find out what happened, like at the Bayfront Center, with Harley Race against Dusty Rhodes or something in Florida. They had to wait a month, almost as much as when Bill Apter used to put it out. It was always so long before anybody could get the magazine and find out what happened. So baseball magazine
was doing it in 5-day turnaround.
Right. But when they went weekly, it got to be a lot more current.
Sure.
Now,
then there was a time. Yeah, there was a time in a period of time that I did a lot of traveling and back and forth, like 4, 5, 6 times a year. That they come to the States and do things with you.
Right.
Yeah, the Todd, Bill and I went to see Hulk Hogan at his movie sets in his truck.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Remember that time, Bill?
Yeah, and do an interview while he was on set.
Yeah.
But that's how much the wrestlers in the United States thought of the Japanese magazines. I mean, Hulk Hogan, the biggest star of the time, and then he takes time out of, the guy's worth, I don't know how many dollars an hour or a minute that guy's worth. He took a lot of time to invite us into his trailer and
basically spent the afternoon with us.
And then we could also shoot on set when he was filming Thunder in Paradise and things like that.
Yeah, it was good that we had Hiro Matsuda and Jimmy Hart on our side, and we were pretty much able to do pretty much everything while we were there, and nobody bothered us, which was great.
Yeah, it wasn't like now. It's so corporate, even with AEW and with WWE. I mean, not saying anything bad, but it's become very corporate, and the wrestlers have to do everything through the corporate. It's very hard to do what we did in those days now. But in those days, we could take the wrestler and take him out on on a location somewhere downtown Manhattan or whatever, shoot all kinds of pictures, and we didn't have to report to any corporate headquarters. Oh, we want to do this. We just did it.
Because we became friends with them.
Yeah. And they all wanted to be in Japanese magazines. Why? Because they wanted to be noticed over there. There was no TV really, but from here. So if they got in the magazine, people would know who they were, and then they were hoping to get a tour of Japan, which paid them very well at the time, and they could get good wrestling experience over there too, because the wrestling was much more competitive than it is over here, stiffer, just a really good wrestling.
Now, when your magazine went from monthly and moved to weekly, I can imagine that had to be a big amount of increase in both of your workloads, I can imagine. Am I right?
Yeah.
Because you're
Not
going...
really. It was just that it came out sooner.
Oh, okay. So
It
basically...
wasn't really a workload thing.
Yeah, it's not just about American wrestling. It's a wrestling magazine that came out every week with all the Japanese news, you know.
Okay.
Then about 8 to 10 pages of it was American stuff.
Okay.
Out of about 150 pages magazine.
Yeah.
That's when they had Giant Baba's company was over there, you know, big deal, and then Noki, and there was a lot of just as big as WWE, almost pretty much, maybe bigger than WWE was then over there going on. That we had to get our Fumi had to sometimes fight for American pages to go in there to the main editor because there's so much Japanese wrestling that we had to compete, kind of compete for with the pages.
Kind of compete, yeah.
In a way, yeah. Not really competing, but just there was so much wrestling in those days. This is nothing compared to what it was then.
Now I see a couple people here, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I do see a couple people here, so I wanna say that first off, Fumi and Bill, you guys have your own individual fans. I see a couple of ladies here. First off, to Fumi, we have Angel. She says, "Hello, Fumi, Mr. Tokyo. I haven't heard from you in a little over a year. Kisses to you. You need to be around here more often. Nice to hear your voice again."
Thank you.
And Bill, for you, we have Lisa. Lisa says, "Wow, Bill, the famous photographer, finally back. Welcome. Interesting facts from over the years from both of you."
Well, that's good. I remember her from the last time I was on. She's always been around.
Yeah.
You should be happy to have listeners like her. Really, you should be glad that we need more loyal people like that.
I really am. I'm blessed. I'm grateful. Doing this for 8 years, she's still here with me.
Wow.
She's still here, and she was actually my first subscriber when I started, and I had no subscribers. She was the first one, and yeah, she's still here, and she loves this show.
That's great.
So, yeah, well, see, Bill, I was telling you, a lot of people, they're going to be excited to hear from you and Fumi again, and actually everybody will talk about what we could be doing with Wrestling Road Stories at the end of the show, and as we continue on with, both of you, we were at the point where, Bill was talking about how everything is so corporate now. And, back in the day, even though you guys were, you became friends with the wrestlers, you didn't have to go through all the corporate stuff that you would have to go through now.
But we also experienced the beginning of it, that we're going to fast forward a little bit. Okay. If you remember, Bill, the second year WrestleMania, there was 3 locations. WrestleMania 2. One in LA, one in Chicago, and one in that Nassau Coliseum, I believe. 3 different photographers in 3 different locations sending it,
Yeah, that was something.
Yeah. Then there was a time that the WWE, that basically kicked every photographer out of the ringside. That Bill had to go into Zoom. Period. Remember?
Okay.
Right. Before they wouldn't even let us in. WWE had a little issue. They didn't like press. They wanted to control their own press.
Yeah, remember? Because they had the WWE official magazine.
Yeah, so they felt as though the magazine that they were putting out, we were competing with them, which we weren't. and we got past. At first, they didn't.
They negotiated in Japan that the Japanese magazine can be in no American wrestling magazine, but Japanese magazine are back in ringside after a while.
Yeah, but they were prejudiced against everybody, but they didn't.
Yeah, but it was so hard to make those color pages with zoom lens photos. Everything's far away, you know.
Yeah.
But NWA, WCW was good about it. Then we got to fast forward a little bit. That there was Monday Night War, the night, WCW Nitro and Monday Night Raw from WWE. That they're always live, so we needed to have 2 photographers in 2 different locations every week. And I had to cut, I made a page for both companies. And in some weekends there was ECW Big Show, so 3 locations, 3 different photographers. And it just, and then I get all the film and then put the pages together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those Monday Night War period sped up our process too, for sending these photos as quick as possible and put the pages together as quick as possible. And yeah, if you remember that. But it was still before the internet.
Yeah, and it was still film, and undeveloped film would go over to him.
Yeah, and then a lot of times I had to go to the airport to pick it up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now,
and then, one other thing, there was a newspaper over there called Tokyo Sports, and they
covers wrestling every night, every evening.
Yeah, they cover all the wrestling. So the guy who worked for Tokyo Sports over here, he'd have to go in his hotel room and bring his chemicals and everything, and he'd be in the bathroom and he'd be developing the film, and then he'd be hanging it from the clothes, like the shower curtain. And I'd walk into his hotel to visit him a couple times, and he had all the film.
It sounds like acid or something.
Yeah, it was crazy.
The whole entire hotel room smelled like some strong acid or something.
Those chemicals, it was really something. It was really good. But he worked.
We got to remind them all that it was before you were able to send photos via emails.
Right. Everything was by U.S. mail or FedEx or some kind of custom packaging.
and when the custom packaging, when you guys would do that, would it be like overnighted? Like, would you have to send it where it would be overnighted, like from America to Japan?
Yeah, that too, but you needed, what's it called? Not an itinerary, but what do you call the piece of paper, Bill? That you have to declare what's in it.
Yeah, there's a form, customs form.
Yeah, because customs needed to know that there is no adult content in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes that would hold up the whole process. They put it in a hold, and then we had so many times, a whole bunch of times when almost couldn't make the deadline because they would hold it in customs.
Yeah, because undeveloped film should not go in or something, right?
Yeah. It was bad, but we got such a good reputation after a while, and they believed us and they trusted us. So after a while, they just let it
Wrestling
through.
magazine film going through custom every week, every single week.
Right. Yeah. So, but that for a while it wasn't too good.
Yeah. And also there's
I'm sorry, WCW versus WWE. Each one of the companies wanted a good article in the magazine to make them each look good because they were fighting each other. So they both were very nice to let us in and
to the ringside.
Yeah. Then it went back to ringside because they wanted their article to look good.
Yeah.
Now, Fumi, here's to your point earlier. And I'm going to read this in the chat because it's just like you were saying, you know, how a lot of people listening to this, you know, will not be familiar with any of this. But here's a perfect comment for both of you, actually, Fumi and Bill. One of the viewers, his name is Hendrix. He I'm not sure how old he is. I think he's in his late teens, maybe early 20s, but he does say he says I'm not extremely familiar with these guys. I'm not going to lie, but I am very interested in the stories they have and what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So there is interest from the younger demographic.
Yeah, that's good.
That the life of the internet don't start until like 1999.
Yep. That's when on the
right around then, yep.
The setup for Monday Night Raw.
It was email first, and internet itself was in infancy. That there's no moving image, just photos. No live streaming, nothing.
Remember when WWF would have the WWF.com logo on the top of the Raw setup on Monday nights? That's how I first started getting familiar with the internet. You know, that something else existed.
Right. But no moving image though not until another 10, 15 years, I guess.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then I think Bill and I started, sending these color photos via emails right around the time that the Stone Cold and Vince McMahon had match at WrestleMania, like 2001. We sat in hotel room and took us all night to just send one picture.
No kidding, really?
Yeah, because the internet was so slow.
Wow.
And the photo takes up too much weight in that your computer gets so heavy and freeze.
Okay. That's when it was dial-up internet.
We fell asleep. We would take naps while the photos were sending, and then as soon as it finished sending, we'd wake up and send another one.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes forever. And also the color of digital photo was terrible at the time.
Yeah, and the quality and the grain. The grain was hideous.
Was Photoshop around yet or not quite?
Photoshop wouldn't come out another decade.
Okay.
It was as is. It was just as is. It was really horrible.
Okay.
And then digital cameras they didn't have the high speed. They didn't have the ASA 6400 and all that what they have now. They had maybe ASA 400 if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Which is a sensitivity to light. If any, you had to use there had to be a lot of light to get an exposure right on that thing. And a lot of these shows, the lighting was so different every show you went to, and now it's more consistent.
Difference in lighting. Yep.
Yeah, we had a hell of a time with that. Oh my goodness.
And some of the hotels in some of the cities didn't even have the access at the hotel lobby.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we had to go to the lobby to get the internet. You couldn't get internet in your room. We had to go to the lobby. So we were
seriously,
hanging around
the time machine we're talking about.
Yeah.
It was. It's so easy now compared to what we had. I mean, that separated the men from the boys in photography back then. Even digital, everything. It was really, you had to be really good.
Yeah, it's like, Bill and I remember the music was 8 tracks to cassette tape to vinyls, all these things. But for the younger listeners out there, the music on CD is old, right? Because you download the music. But I think the CD was pretty new to us then,
I still use it all the time. I
do
don't
too.
download anything. DVDs and DVDs. I don't want to download. I want that thing in my hand. I want to be able to feel it, see it. I want to put it on my shelf and know I got it. I don't want it in the cloud where it could disappear anytime.
Right. Yeah, and then also we have to, remind them all that not everybody had cell phone until like 95.
Yeah.
Right. And then the cell phone, it wasn't the picture on there or internet and everything. It was just a phone. It was the size of a walkie-talkie.
Oh, yeah, that was big.
military walkie-talkie. It looked like we were in the one of the war movies, and the thing was as big as your head, and you had nowhere to carry it. There was no pocket, no container where you could put. You had to make up something where you hung it on your belt. And so if somebody called you, and then it was like $2 a minute.
You get cut off because there aren't all the the cell phone stations all over cities or anything like that. You get cut off as you're driving. Battery dies every day.
Yeah. So it wasn't easy.
The people must be amused at the two cavemen talking.
well,
what
you're
saying is like all through WrestleMania 1 through WrestleMania all the way to 30 something, and it really kind of like when the cable TV came out, that when the cable TV came out, that was a time that the people realized there were other wrestling other than the one you have it locally, right?
Yeah.
Then in late 80s, the pay-per-view was new. That you pay for program per show. And all those things evolved, and we experienced that through wrestling.
But you couldn't. What happened was the cable TV was actually the beginning of the end of the territories, where you had every state had a different wrestling territory. The cable TV made it so that everybody could watch everything, and they didn't need their territories much. And then Vince McMahon was able to come in because he was, he wanted to be the king of the wrestling, and he came in and bought out all the territories easily because they were already dying, kind of, because of cable TV.
Yeah, sooner or later, yeah.
Yeah, but I liked it much better when it was the territories and the wrestlers could finish in Florida when they were burned out. They were, like, let's say it was Roman Reigns then. And when he's burned out, he could go to just move up the road to Georgia, and then he had a whole new company to work for, and he could wrestle every night in Georgia until he burned out there. Then he could go up to New
Dallas.
He could go to Dallas or Oregon or Minneapolis or any of those, and then when they finished the whole thing in several years, they wind up back in Florida again, and he'd be a whole new guy again. They didn't burn out like they do now.
Yeah, but that cannot happen now.
No, but now luckily there's AEW and ROH and a few companies where these guys, when they burn out in WWE, they have somewhere to go. But
only top guys, though, because the only place you be making real big, huge money is WWE and maybe AEW. You don't actually make all that much money with other companies.
Right.
But
they could, in the 80s, they could make a living just by going to Georgia. And then the other thing that was happening in those days was the wrestler could go to the show and then drive. And they would drive almost every time, and then drive home the same night and spend the night in his own bed. They rarely did a hotel.
Yeah, life has changed.
Yeah.
Every wrestler in Florida, they lived in Tampa, and they'd carpool down to Fort Lauderdale, and then do the show and then carpool back. And sometimes they'd stay. If it was 4 hours, and a lot of them would beat up. They didn't feel like they'd stay over. But they'd go to Jacksonville or to go to Lakeland or some of these other, St. Petersburg. They come back home the same night.
It was like that up in Minnesota too, right?
Yeah, that was a much better life for them. But they worked every night, every single night.
See, that's amazing. Every single night, just working and beating themselves up, because back then it was a lot more hard-nosed than today.
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes it would be Sunday afternoon show, and then in another town, maybe a couple hours away, they'd have a Sunday night show.
Okay.
Yeah, but people wouldn't be taping those matches through your iPhone, so basically, Monday through Sunday, 7 days in a row, there was Hardy Race against Dusty Rhodes, NWA World Title match in Florida, 7 days in a row. exact, almost same match every night.
Yeah, and nobody knew. Nobody would know because they'd only go to their town. So if it was in Orlando, only the people from Orlando would come. Then they did.
So that can't be. That
thing
could not be done now either.
No.
What do you
They
think?
didn't even. I'm sorry. They didn't even do any planning for the match like they do now. They knew it already. They just go in the ring. They wouldn't get to the arena till like a half an hour before the show, and then they just get the trunks on and go in. And they didn't talk about it. They have to go over all, have agents and everything telling them what to do. They just went in and did it, and that was it.
But that's because they're Harley Race and Dusty Rhodes, though.
Right, and Terry Funk and Jack Briscoe.
That's right. Up in Minneapolis, Vern Gagne, Nick Bockwinkel. Yeah, of course. Mad Dog Vachon.
Just for a hypothetical here, say for example, if they would decide to take the territories, like a bunch of small wrestling promoters, say if they came along today and they wanted to start up wrestling territories and pop them up all over, how do you think it would succeed in today's day and age with territories?
That doesn't work because people know which one's Major League and which one's your local little company.
Okay.
There were all the territories all over the country. They were pretty big on their own rights. In Dallas, world class. AWA, American Wrestling Association up in Minneapolis, or Detroit, the Sheik, the big time wrestling, the Indianapolis Dick Bruiser World Wrestling Association. They all called it Major League of Professional Wrestling, and geographically they were pretty big too, actually. And enough fans that, like for instance, that up in Detroit. The Sheik against Bobo Brazil. They did that for 30 years. But they drew 10,000 people every Thursday night at the Cobo. That was like that.
Yeah. Now they come once a year and they get they draw 16,000 people in Orlando, when they come to the big arena, the WWE or the AEW. But in the 80s, they were in a 5,000 seat arena. So they only had 5,000 people. But they had 5,000 people. And also, I think
the people in general watched more television before the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what was on your television? If you lived in Florida, if you lived in Minnesota, if you lived in Dallas, Texas, what you have is what you get. And they were pretty big. So, Todd, you cannot really start local territory now and have people believe it's your Major League of Wrestling. Okay. They know which one's Major League and which wasn't,
Yeah. And I see
but
here...
They all see Major League now.
There's a couple...
And also...
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a couple more people here for comments on the show. Bloom Day. She says, I haven't heard a show with these two gentlemen, but I enjoy them. Good conversation. And... And Bill, you know this next lady very well. I mean, you know her better than you even know Lisa. Mama T, my mom, she put in the chat, hi Bill and Fumi. Haven't heard from you guys in over a year. Hope all is well. You both sound great.
Thank you. That's good. Yeah, then this is thanks to technology. I'm talking to you from Tokyo, Japan, and Todd is in Ohio, and Bill is talking from the way up in the mountain of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not paying any telephone fees.
Right. It used to be really expensive to make long distance phone call. Bill and I, Florida and Tokyo.
Yeah. When we were doing this wrestling big time all over, this call would have costed probably $75.
Oh,
yeah.
Sometimes over 100.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even do three-way calling back in the day, could you?
Oh, there was a party line back in the 80s.
Okay.
But you have to sign up.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the phone bill package that you are able to do the party line or not. Conference call, they call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Mm.
Now,
I used to have the speakerphone. You know, you didn't have a speakerphone then, but you could go to like Radio Shack, and you could buy a little. You could buy.
I don't
like
want to sound like
a
couple cavemen here.
I tell you what, I'd go back there any day, and if they had a train to go back to 1985, tomorrow I'd be on that train.
Because you love the
there.
TV then. All the TV show I love, you loved.
You know, what they did then was, they put so much stuff on TV now. Nobody really has to go to the arena to see it. You see so much good stuff on TV. In those days, they've had a little crappy arena with maybe 150 people, a lot of places, and they did a little teaser on TV, and they promoted the match, and you had to go pay to see a match in an arena. There was no television cameras. It wasn't on TV. It was just the people who were in the audience, and they paid to see it, and because they promoted it on TV. You only had 1 hour of wrestling for the whole week on TV.
But you want to go to the arena so you can have good old, hot dog and greasy French fries.
Right, and then you could. It wasn't much money to get in. It was only like $5, and you could get in and see seats, and you could go every week. How often do you get to go now? If you're living in Orlando, once a year they come, maybe, or twice. That's all. We had 52 matches a year in Orlando alone.
And that's probably where local wrestling, will fit into the picture. That you get intimate with local companies. Not a big league wrestling, but there's wrestling happening somewhere every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks small. If they only have, but now they only have like a couple hundred people at these little shows. But it gives the new wrestlers a place to train and to be in front of an audience anyway.
Yeah, but each and every one of these young wrestlers, in the smaller local companies, their dreams are to go to WWE someday.
And there'll be only a very small amount of them that get there.
Yeah, that's a reality.
But if you trained in the old days, they didn't train you unless they knew you were going to be good, and somebody discovered you, and then they'd go in there and they'd take you in a back arena somewhere, a back little wrestling ring in Calgary, and then the Hart Dungeon or something, and he'd break your arm or he'd break your finger or he'd put you.
They don't want you to be. Todd. And Bill, I just remember one of the greatest stories Bill experienced. Bill, tell everybody about the story at the Tampa Sportatorium when young Paul Heyman came in and young Scott Hall power slammed him.
Yeah, Paul Heyman was an editor for a wrestling magazine. Local, in New York, and he was
same Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman, yeah.
Todd, are you with us?
Yep. Oh yeah, and believe me, I know Paul Heyman very well.
Yeah, he was in the audience in the wrestling. He was trying to get in all the time, and he came. I knew him from the magazine. He'd use some pictures every now and then, and. When I went to some little show somewhere, I'd send him the photos. But he wanted to be in Florida wrestling to start in the ring as a manager, and he came down to my house, and then I drove him to Tampa at the Sportatorium, which is the little TV arena. But that was also the headquarters for Florida Wrestling. Yeah, in this little building. It's a Chinese Laundry or something now. But it was
it's a wrestling ring
place.
In there.
Yeah, just a ring, and then that's it. So he went there, and he wanted to talk to Kevin Sullivan, who was the booker at the time, and Humperdinck was his assistant. And
Oliver Humperdinck,
yeah. They made him wait in the audience. I mean, not in the audience, but in the hallway for hours. Paul Heyman sat there, and I waited with him. And they treated him like a fan, but that guy's very talented. Even then, he was very talented, and he somehow he talked his way in to managing. I don't know who. He brought a guy.
Before he got in, there was a time that in the training session that the young Scott Hall was there.
No, that was actually in a real show. I was in the Sun Dome in Tampa, and he managed his guy, and then Scott Hall was the opponent, and they didn't know Paul Heyman from Adam at all, and the way they broke him in was Scott Hall power slammed them at the end of the match, and they thought he was dead. Paul Heyman laid there like he was a dead. And the doctor or something came in the ring to find out if Paul Heyman was still alive, because Scott Hall did he did it hard, And Paul Heyman was not this big fat guy that he is now. He was skinny cute little guy, and he was. They were so surprised that he could, after the show, he could get up and he was fine. But Scott Hall planted one on him really hard. That's Razor Ramon, if anybody doesn't know.
A great tale.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we had to share it.
Oh, it's a great one. It's the first time I heard it.
No, that was he didn't even really know it was coming. He kind of knew they were going to do something to him, but he wasn't 100% sure what they were going to do. But they knew that he was going to get, he didn't care. He wanted to get in so bad.
Yeah. Todd might enjoy this. That Bill, remember, how we met, 19-year-old Goldust?
Oh yeah, he worked in I had to go to his first. I don't know when I first met him. He was in. He was his first match, and it was in a garage in Lakeland in 100-degree weather. And it was Goldust. It was Dustin Rhodes.
Dustin Rhodes, yes. Yeah.
His first match, and I was there shooting his first match. I mean, I didn't know who this guy was, but it was Dusty's son, so he was a big deal.
Oh, you could tell.
Yeah, it was. But he was kind of an ass back then. But since then he's one of the nice guys in wrestling. Dustin Rhodes, I really like that.
And really smart and intelligent and has a lot of insight. And so we've witnessed right from the beginning to all the way to Dusty Rhodes Jr., to Goldust, to, the older incarnation into like a philosopher of professional wrestling. Now, we've witnessed him all.
I did the first promo photos of Lex Luger, Rick Rude, the first time we camera shots was that. I mean, so many. We went to, go to their house and then make an interview and the photos of how they lived and what their outside, their lifestyle was outside of the wrestling ring. We did that all the time, personal, up close and personal with the wrestlers.
Yeah, as recent as Chris Jericho, though. But when you think about it was already 15 years ago. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because Chris Jericho took time off from WWE and got a hold of him, and then I wanted to have you go to his house and do the photo and interview, and you had to talk with his local manager. Remember?
Yeah, the local manager. See, we knew Chris Jericho from a long time in Japan. We both knew him. I even rode around with Fumi, and Fumi took Chris Jericho in his car to go to an autograph signing of the first Fozzy CD that came out, and a big record store in Japan. And me and Fumi took Jericho there, and we were in the shop. Chris Jericho was showing me which CDs I should buy from some of these rock bands he knew. And then he stopped wrestling for a while to do full-time rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go and make an interview with Chris Jericho when this is what we were talking about before. That was too corporate. I had to go through WWE and they would never allow it. But when Chris Jericho quit the WWE for a while, he was on his own. And then I called his manager and I said, Fumi Saito and me, I want to do the pictures. He's going to do the interview, and then Fumi's going to put it in the magazine in Japan. And but then the manager of Chris Jericho said, "Well, we'll have to see you. I don't know." And then he called Chris Jericho, and Jericho invited me to the house in Tampa, and and then the manager couldn't believe it. He goes, "I can't believe it. He wants, he wants you to come over to his house." So I went to the house, and we took pictures with his dog, and he has a Paul McCartney guitar. He has all kinds of Japanese wrestling magazines that we did on him, where he's on the cover. He has them all over the wall in glass cases, and he had he probably had 1,000 or 2,000 CDs of rock and roll
on his wall.
I mean, the whole wall was CDs, and I saw all that, and we put that all in the magazine, and we could show how Chris Jericho really lives, not just the TV character Chris Jericho. We showed the real Chris Jericho, which was kind of similar to the TV in a way. But that gave people, they could see something that you could never see on TV. That was all hidden. They never showed their real life.
Yeah. Oh, another tale I remembered. I mean, you got to fast forward tape a little bit. That Hulk Hogan and his daughter, was cutting her first CD as a singer, and there was a thing that you had to go in and do the photo, and you didn't have a press pass, and Hulk Hogan took his pass off his neck and gave it to you. Remember?
Yeah. I didn't even know that show was. It was a.
This is real. How nice Hulk Hogan really is.
Right. They had a concert. It was he was helping his daughter promote her singing career. She started with that, and the first show I didn't know it. There was a big concert, lots of groups playing right across the street from my house in a park, and it was there probably was 100,000. I think there was like 40,000 people there, and the place was the 4th of July. And I just went there to see what was going on.
With no pass whatsoever.
I didn't know even Hulk Hogan's daughter was there. I had no idea. And then I looked at the article. I looked at the calendar. The event. 4:00 is this group. 6:00 will be this group. And then I saw 6:00 was Hulk Hogan's daughter. And I forgot what her name is actually.
Brooke.
What's her first name?
It's escaping Brooke. Me. I'm sorry.
Her first name is Brooke.
Brooke.
Yeah. So I'm like, so I think I wrote to Fumi, and I said, Hulk Hogan's daughter's playing. Go shoot it. I'm not sure how we did it, but I think, how am I going to shoot it? There's 40,000 people here. I have no pass. It was a free show, thank goodness, so I could get in. It was in a park. And the stage was out on a lake. That the people were, on the land, but the stage was floating in the middle of the lake. So I'm thinking, even if she's there, I'm not going to be able to get close enough. I didn't have the right equipment. I didn't happen to bring it. I didn't know she was there. So I think, oh my goodness, so. How am I going to meet Hulk Hogan and his daughter in the middle of 40,000 people? So what I did was I waited by the railing, and I knew they were going to come out because they had to do an interview on the radio before she would play. And I stood like a fan, right in the front row, and I'm kind of noticeable, I guess. But he saw me right away when he was walking down the aisle. He stopped right there. And then he said, "Here, take pictures." And I took a picture of him there. And then he went on the radio station.
His neck,
a
shot off his back.
When he was on the radio interview, I said, the daughter was talking. And he was talking to me from the stand where the radio was. And I go, "Do you have any passes? I can't get. How am I going to get in there?" And he goes, "Oh my God, no, I don't. I don't have any extra." And then Then he left. I thought, okay, I'm never going to get to see. How am I going to do this? And then his wife came. He was still married at the time, And his wife came and she says, "My husband wants you to have this," and it was the Hulk Hogan official pass for the show. And I put it on. She says, "Now you." But I thought, I still can't get close. I can get to the end of the land, but I can't get to the water where they're gonna. That stage is way out there. So I was walking, and then somebody says, "Hulk Hogan wants you." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he was in a boat, and he was just him and his daughter were in a boat. And he's waving to me, and he's telling me to come. He all the way down to the lake. The security escorted me, and I got on the boat with Hulk Hogan and his daughter, and we took the front cover picture on that boat.
I had to use it for the cover of the magazine.
Yeah, and that was the one they used while I was on the boat, and then he took me on stage. The boat, the people, the performers came to the stage on a boat. And a private boat, and then he took me on stage. I took the photos of the daughter singing and her and him doing things, and then we put it in the front cover. And then
to honor what happened that day, that I had to use that photo for the cover of the magazine. And there's another episode of the tale that the very very next time when you went into Hulk Hogan's house or his the little store. Hulk Hogan had that magazine right on his coffee table. Remember?
Yeah, he had that magazine only on the coffee table always, because it was it was a special day. It was his daughter's first concert. It was, he worked really hard to get her in the music business.
Yeah. That was a good story, Todd. Don't you think?
Oh, you know what? It's incredible. I enjoyed it very much.
That's how the people were.
I think I have to defend Hulk Hogan here, that he's been so misunderstood.
Yeah.
He's really, really friendly, very friendly, and, just you can talk to him, and it's been so misunderstood.
Oh, I agree. I have, Bill Fumi, I have 3 questions here from Hendrix. First, he says WWE has made it so the wrestlers cannot make money off of Twitch or anything else using their brand. This was a big thing during the pandemic when these guys were on the shelf. Do either of you, Bill or Fumi, have any opinions on that?
Well, because they are under contract to such a big, huge company, the publicly traded company, that they legally own you while you're under contract. So I think the WWE had every right to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill, do you have anything?
In this current trend of the business, yes.
Okay.
And also, they are protected by, internet abuse.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Bill, do you have anything you'd like to add on that point?
Well, back in the 80s, when they used to have the arena show, the arena shows, there was the wrestlers would sell their own stuff. They would bring things, they'd have their own T-shirts and bring them to the event and put them
at the independent shows.
Yeah, but this was the big Florida wrestling. There was a league, but the Florida wrestling allowed them to sell pictures or T-shirts or
because they weren't paying them all that much.
Well, yeah, so they could make that. But the best one I ever saw was a wrestler named Jim Garvin. He was really a really great wrestler, but somehow they made this statement: Jim Garvin is a weasel. Jim Garvin is a weasel. The whole audience would be yelling that. So Jim Garvin, I was in the parking lot getting my stuff ready, and Jim Garvin comes up to me with this box of this big box. He goes, "Can you bring this to the concession stand?" And I'm saying, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm selling Jim Garvin is a weasel, those bumper stickers for $1 each." I said, "What?" So and then when they got in the ring, his gimmick, he didn't want to see those stickers. It made him nervous to see them, but he was just doing that. So he says, "Jim Garvin has a special announcement, before the match. please do not buy. He found out that they're selling at the concession stand Jim Garvin is a weasel bumper sticker. He does not want one single. He doesn't want to see one single. The announcer saying this. He doesn't want to see one single one of those stickers in the audience because it will distract his match. And everybody, as soon as they announced it, the whole arena went out and bought. They must have sold 10,000 of them. Everybody in the audience had that sticker.
Wow.
I guess the bumper sticker itself is a thing of the past, like as a culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that somewhere, that one.
I like bumper stickers myself, but
yeah.
Now,
but that's how they could do it in those days, which now, because the company owns it. But again, like he says, they weren't making anywhere near the money that they do now.
Yeah. And we have another question here. Here's another one for both you, Bill, and Fumi from Hendrix. He's saying it's crazy to think of a young Paul Heyman as an editor. Did you have any idea that he was going to be as big and important to wrestling as he is today?
now I understand. He was always so innovating and so creative, and now it all makes sense.
Okay.
And Paul Heyman as a person is not all that much different from advocate of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar thing. He is like that in person.
Yeah.
Really.
I think he's the greatest in-ring interview of anybody. I mean, he doesn't blow one single line, one single word. It's perfect. His speech, I challenge anybody to be as good at in-ring promos as him. He's perfect.
Not just the delivery of it, but the ideas he come up with.
Yeah, but he doesn't. You never hear him even.
Like Terry Funk Sabu helped him, but he's the one who came up with the concept of 3 wrestlers in the ring. See, now they call it triple threat and almost like an everyday thing. But when they started the 3-way dance, the ECW's like, 3 guys in the ring, we all shocked. But now it's almost common. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, in the magazine, when he was still doing the magazine, I come up with I wanted to me and Nancy Benoit, who was Nancy Sullivan at the time, I wanted to do a mail order thing with her and put it in the magazine and and then me and her were gonna sell pictures of her. And Paul Heyman is the one who came up with the idea of what to do. He said, I know what you can do. He's the one who came up with the ad and everything for me and Nancy to do a mail order business together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's so creative. So creative, though.
And he's also, he acts arrogant, but he's a very, very nice guy.
And then, final question from Hendrix I see here. He's asking for you, Bill and Fumi, do you have any stories of the Nature Boy Ric Flair? And if so, was he always as crazy as he is nowadays?
Everything that's on his books are pretty much true then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He too bad Scott Hall's no longer with us, but Scott Hall, as Razor Ramon, and also Ric Flair are probably the two guys that lived the gimmick most. Whatever they were inside the ring, they lived it outside the ring as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe that.
Ric Flair and him and Scott, they both became the gimmick.
That person, yeah.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper was able to overcome it, but the rock star Alice Cooper, he became the gimmick of Alice Cooper. He didn't know the difference when he was off stage or on stage after a while. He was Alice Cooper. And
I guess that happens to most of the superstars. American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Giant Baba, Antonio Inoki. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
There's very few. But most of anybody I know in wrestling, the Vic Flair and Razor Ramon.
Razor Ramon, there you go.
Live that gimmick.
That's amazing.
Like the Road Warrior, it's like Animal, the Road Warrior. He was a nice, regular guy off camera. He was the nicest guy. He didn't do that like he's going to kill everybody. He didn't act like a comic book superhero. He acted like a regular guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the confidence.
Yeah. But he
was
Bruno
very
Sammartino,
careful about it. That he never walked around the hotel lobby to be bothered or anything like that.
Right. But some of the people like Bruno Sammartino in the ring and out of the ring was real Bruno Sammartino. He was the same, but he didn't.
Yeah, the larger than life.
That was him, though. Yeah, and other people, Barry Windham, he was always a real friendly guy, and Blackjack Mulligan. I don't know. I mean, there was some really characters in those days, and. But
for today's fans, Blackjack Mulligan is a grandfather of Bray Wyatt. Okay.
Right. Now Bray Wyatt, he'd come on with the the Wyatt family, the weirdos, like from Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. But Bray Wyatt outside the ring was the nicest, friendliest, just well-mannered guy I've ever seen.
And
how about that, Todd?
I think that's great stuff, great stories. And last, before we move on here to wrap it up, Bill, I remember when we talked about this, I believe it was on a phone conversation, years ago, and it just hit me now because we spoke of Hulk Hogan a little earlier, your experience with him shooting his daughter's concert. And I think you and I spoke about this on the phone some time ago, and it was Hulk Hogan. I believe you did a shot for Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock together, correct? Can you tell the story on that?
Oh, yeah, Kid Rock. And what's the other rock band?
It was there was
Creed.
Creed, yeah.
Creed, yeah.
Probably nobody knows. Yeah, but anyway, there was a grand opening in Orlando of the Hard Rock Hotel.
Hard Rock Cafe, yeah.
And yeah. Actually, the hotel it was. The cafe was already there, but the hotel opened, and they had a grand opening, and what they had was all kinds of stars were going to be there. And of wrestling, I think it was only Hulk Hogan. It was only, and he was the only one representing wrestling. The other thing was all rock and roll. All kinds of bands were there, and they all had their hotel rooms, and then they would come out and they would, talk on stage and everything about how great Hard Rock was. So I knew Hogan was going to be there, and so I thought, okay, that might be just again when I had no pass, no nothing. And I was walking. I parked my car. I didn't want to. There was no parking, so I parked my car far away, and I walked over this little bridge and everything, and was walking to the Hard Rock to just see if I could. It just sounded interesting to go to. I had no assignment, but this limo, the limos were pulling by with the different rock stars in it coming to the hotel. And all of a sudden, one limo, one after another was passing me. All of a sudden, one limo passed me and then stopped, and then backed up, and the tinted windows, you can't see in there, but the windows opened up, and it was Hulk Hogan in the limo, and he goes, "Bill, what the hell are you doing out there?" I said, "I'm walking to these. Why are you walking? What the hell are you walking for? Get in!" And I get in the limo with Hulk Hogan. And we go to his room, and then no, we didn't go to his room. We were driving around. He says, "You guys want to go see?" The limo driver was also also in there was the handler, the talent handler from the Hard Rock, and he goes, "You guys want to go see anybody? Go visit?" And Hogan didn't have any idea. So I said, let's go to see Kid Rock. And he goes, yeah, let's go to see Kid Rock. So me and Hogan are banging on the Kid Rock's dressing room door. And he opens it up, and he was shocked to see Hulk Hogan. There's Hulk Hogan standing at his door, So we came in, and then we took pictures of him, like Hulk Hogan with Kid Rock in a headlock, and
locking up,
like they were wrestling, different wrestling, wrestling halls. It was hysterical.
That is so cool.
And Hulk Hogan, and I had the next day, and then Creed was in there. They were pretty big then, and they kind of faded out, but now they were big at the time. And I took every one of the Creed band wanted a picture with Hulk Hogan, and I must have given out my card or something, my business card. And then, like the next day, the Creed, Kid Rock's father, who is his manager, and were calling me and wanting pictures of them with Hulk Hogan. It was hysterical. Do you have a picture with Hulk Hogan?
That's awesome.
That was hysterical.
That's nice, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And lastly, Bill, you were talking about, going around to Chris Jericho's house to do an interview when he was doing full-time rock and roll. What was it like for you sitting down to do that interview with him at his home all those years later? When you rewind and you, from the time when you were going around to see him, when he was young in wrestling and when he just started doing Fozzy shows. And I remember you saying, like, there was only like 20, 30 people in the crowd at a bar and you had to shoot the show and he would just have fun with it. Like, what was that like from that day to seeing him, what he became when you had that interview with him at his home?
Yeah, he used to draw. I actually shot his first concert was rocking though, not the hotel, like Fumi said, the Hard Rock Cafe. That's where, but it wasn't a cafe. It was the arena, an arena there too, a rock hall, a concert hall. Mm-hmm. And I shot his first concert as Fozzy, and went in the dressing room with him and everything, and his first Fozzy concert. And then we put that in, and then also I shot a lot of the little bars he like in Montreal and Phoenix. I remember one, and I don't know where else. He'd go to do the wrestling show, the Raw, and then after the Raw, he'd go and play Fozzy like right down the block at some bar. He did that all the time, and he sent me down to the bar, before he went there, and he wanted to know how he could get in there and how many people. I said, there's like 20 people there. He goes, oh, okay, that's fine, But nobody was really going.
When I met Chris Jericho back in 92 or 93-ish, that I knew right then that he was going to be a huge superstar. The young Chris Jericho back in 92, 93, he already had the superstar written all over him. Seriously, I just knew that he was going to be huge.
Yeah, like back when he was wrestling under Cowboy Chris Jericho and Leon Diaro.
Oh, no, he used to come to Japan 90 days at a time and, used to stay 3 months at a time in this small hotel room. But he learned how to take subways, and he learned, the conversation Japanese, and he was able to navigate himself in Tokyo, and then he learned the language too, and I just knew he was going to be huge. Okay. He had superstar written all over him. Something about him, yes.
All right, Bill, what were you going to say?
Here was what's good about him. I told you, when I was so embarrassed to tell him there's only 20 people in the audience. That was fine, as long as he could play his rock and roll and he could get better at that. He didn't care if there was 5 people in the audience. He wasn't there to make money. He was there to become a better musician or a better singer and make the band better by having more shows. So that was like his indie.
Right out of high school, he had ideas that he wanted to be a rock and roller. He wanted to be a professional wrestler, you know. But then, what can he do when you are 18? You got to be wrestler first, because while you're young, you can wrestle. You know, you can pursue your rock and roll dream until the day you die. You know, so he took wrestling first.
Yeah.
He had a good attitude of rock and roll.
Oh God, yeah.
That definitely.
I don't.
Bill, you there?
Yeah, we have a little time delay again.
Oh, okay, no problem.
That's so everybody. We're using Skype. We're not on a regular phone. We're using Skype, and it has a little delay.
Okay, but feel free to go ahead.
I think I missed you on that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Are you there, Todd?
yeah, I was going to tell Bill he could continue with what he was saying, because I know he was saying something, and I got him right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I was just saying that it didn't bother him that there was 20 people in the audience. As long as he could play, he could pursue his dream of playing as a rock star. He knew he had to start somewhere, and he wasn't expecting to have, like he did in the WWE, 20,000 people cheering for him. He was fine with 20 people, you know, because it was something new.
Yeah. Well, Bill, Fumi,
Yeah.
So,
wait, what was that, Bill? Were you saying something?
yeah, it was the equivalent of being an indie wrestler in a little show in some little town with this tiny audience. It was fine. It's fine to do that, so you could eventually get bigger, you know. And that was his indie rock and roll equivalent. You know, it was like being an indie rock star when he first started.
Oh, yeah. And look at what he became today. Fantastic. I mean, his new album's coming out, I think, next week. A new Fozzy album. Everything's looking great for him and Fozzy.
Yeah.
He's been doing Fozzy over 20 years now.
Yeah, it's been about, 23 years, I believe. 22, 23
Yeah,
years.
so that's he does have rock and roll career.
Yep. And a 31-year wrestling career.
Yeah, that too. Such a superstar.
And, absolutely. To me, the greatest that'll ever do it, as long as I live. And, Bill, Fumi, a fantastic show. It's so great to have both of you back. I gotta tell you, it feels great. I've missed it, you know. It's been a long time. You know, I had my own issues, you know, with COVID and everything and all. By the way, Fumi, I'm kind of, I would say I'm more recovered now than I was. I probably got about 75% of my smell and taste back. I'm not all the way, but I'm getting there a little more and a little more.
Yeah, I'm glad. Very good.
So it's working out. I just wanted to let you know it's working out. It's taking long, but it's working its way out. And
very nice to know. Yeah.
I really enjoyed having both of you here, and Bill and Fumi. I know we always did Wrestling Road Stories, and like we talked about some classic stories tonight, and everybody, you know what, they're loving it, and I would.
That's good. Thank you.
I would like to know from both of you, Bill and Fumi, how about either the end of this month or sometime early in May, we pick up Wrestling Road Stories again, and we do that like every 2 to 3 weeks, like we were doing.
Okay, well, let's try.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get it going again. Bill, how do you feel about that?
No more on the road. We have to talk about old stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what we would do.
COVID destroyed the wrestling.
We'll pick a topic. Like
this year. hey, this year was really sad because me or Fumi or you, none of us went to WrestleMania. First time ever.
Is that a first
Not
time
one of
ever
us
for
was
all
there.
three?
Well, one of us was always there. You know what I mean? This time, none of us was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, with COVID 2020, 2021, and this year. I missed WrestleMania 3 years in a row. It's not like that. I'm gonna go back next year, no matter what.
Well, they're saying next year's going to be big.
They always say that.
It's true. It's true. Well, guys, what we'll do is I will message you, Bill, and I'll message you too, Fumi. We could think of some classic topics to talk about. I'll see what you guys feel
We
like.
always do. We always have some. Yeah, don't worry.
And then we'll pick it back up again, hopefully in the next few weeks.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, you stay on here while I sign us out, and I want to say thank you again to Mr. Fumi Saito, and of course, thank you again to Mr. Bill Otten for being my special guest today on a very big show for episode number 400 of the Beyond the Ring with Big T Wrestling Podcast for today, Thursday, April 7th, 2022. Great stuff. So, everybody, hope you enjoyed the show. I will see all of you next time, and yes, there will be a next time for me right here on Beyond the Ring with Big T. That'll be, well, hopefully all three of us, me, Bill, and Fumi, will all be back in a few weeks to pick up Wrestling Road Stories again. And don't forget us, and we won't forget you. And of course, if you want the best, and yes, I do mean the absolute best for all of your professional wrestling needs right here on the internet and right here on YouTube.com today, always remember to think Beyond the Ring with Big T. And of course, as always, everybody, always remember and never ever forget that I'm your host, Big T, and I'll see all of you at the matches. Take care, everybody. I love you all, and for Fumi Saito and Bill Otten, thank you both once again. And
From Tokyo.
And I will talk to you all again very soon, and hopefully we'll have Bill and Fumi back in a few weeks. So, take care, everybody. I love you all, and good night, everybody.
Hello, this is EC3 of TNA Wrestling, and you are so very fortunate because you are watching Beyond the Ring with Big T.
This is the bad boy Joey Janela, and you're watching Beyond the Ring with Big T.